These 12 countries hate Filipino success, but they won't say it out loud. Because the truth? It's dangerous. Filipinos are rising, crushing it in tech, medicine, entertainment, and global business. But the world? The world isn't clapping. It's watching. It's sweating. And in some places, it's furious. Why is the world suddenly threatened by Filipino talent? Why are powerful nations that once smiled now secretly hoping you fail? If you're Filipino, watch this before it gets taken down. Number 1. Japan, the rival who never fully apologized. Imagine this. A young Filipino entrepreneur, Maria, moves to Tokyo with dreams of launching her own tech startup. She's met with smiles and nods, but behind closed doors, whispers circulate. Can she really compete with our own? They murmur. Despite the facade of acceptance, there's an undercurrent of skepticism. Maria's story isn't unique. Many Filipinos in Japan face similar challenges. While the country has extended economic aid and investments, like the recent $100 billion in deals spanning energy and digital infrastructure, the societal acceptance of Filipino success stories remains complex. Let's not forget history. The Manila Massacre of 1945, where over 100,000 civilians were killed, remains a painful memory. Japan's apologies have often been seen as insufficient, leaving many Filipinos feeling that the past hasn't been fully acknowledged. Yet, despite these challenges, Filipinos continue to thrive. From caregivers to tech innovators, their contributions to Japanese society are undeniable. But the question remains, is Japan ready to fully embrace the success of those it once tried to suppress? What do you think? Can true reconciliation be achieved without full acknowledgement of the past? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this segment enlightening, smash that like button and stay tuned for our next deep dive into the countries that secretly resent Filipino success. Number 2. South Korea, the pop culture powerhouse under pressure. Imagine this. A young Filipino dancer, MIA, moves to Seoul with dreams of making it big. She trains day and night, mastering intricate choreography, and finally lands a spot in a major K-pop group's backup dance crew. Her talent shines, and soon, she's not just in the background, she's the highlight. But with the spotlight comes scrutiny. Whispers emerge, a Filipino stealing the show. MIA's story isn't unique. Filipino talents are increasingly making their mark in South Korea. Groups like Hori 7ON, the first all-Filipino K-pop boy band, have debuted in Korea, blending P-pop and K-pop elements. Their presence challenges the traditional K-pop mold, introducing a fresh dynamic to the industry. And it's not just about groups. Individual artists like Krisha Chu, a Filipino-American singer, have also made significant strides. Krisha gained recognition through K-pop Star 6 and debuted as a soloist in 2017. Her success paved the way for more Filipino artists to dream big in the K-pop scene. But with success comes resistance. The K-pop industry, known for its rigorous standards and emphasis on Korean identity, sometimes views foreign success stories with skepticism. The rise of Filipino artists challenges the status quo, prompting both admiration and unease. Yet, the numbers don't lie. Filipino artists are gaining massive followings, not just in the Philippines but globally. Their performances garner millions of views, their fan bases are growing, and their influence is undeniable. So, what's the real issue? Is it about talent, or is it about territory? As Filipino artists continue to rise, the K-pop industry faces a pivotal question. Can it embrace a more inclusive future, or will it cling to its traditional boundaries? What do you think? Is the K-pop world ready for a Filipino wave? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're inspired by these stories of resilience and talent, smash that like button. Stay tuned, because next, we are diving into another nation where Filipino excellence is making waves, and not everyone is thrilled about it. Number 3. Taiwan, the shadowed competitor. Let me tell you a story that most news outlets won't cover. There's a guy named Armin, 29 years old, grew up in Laguna, and like most of us, he just wanted a better life. He didn't have rich parents or Ivy League degrees, but he had grit. The kind that wakes you up at 4 a.m. for a 12-hour shift in a foreign land. Armin lands a job in Taiwan's booming tech sector, one of the most competitive industries on Earth. At first, he was just another factory worker assembling semiconductor parts. But soon, supervisors noticed. This guy wasn't just fast, he was smart. Within a year, Armin was training locals on process efficiency. By the end of his second year, he was promoted. A Filipino supervising a Taiwanese production floor. That's when the smiles got thinner, the compliments more forced. And the welcome? A little colder. Taiwan has spent decades clawing its way into global recognition, especially in the semiconductor race. Companies like TSMC control over 54% of the world's chip market. That's no joke. But here's the twist. The Philippines is no longer just the helper. It's becoming the competitor. Filipino engineers, farmers, even startup founders are being recognized across semiconductors, agritech, and AI innovation. And that makes Taiwan nervous. Taiwan's used to one shadow, China's. But now, there's another one creeping in from the south. And it's Filipino. Some Taiwanese analysts have started raising questions. What if investors start looking to Manila instead of Taipei? What if the West shifts its focus to the Philippines as a cheaper, more Western-aligned alternative in tech and production? Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't some heated war. It's not about missiles or borders. This is a silent rivalry, a who gets the spotlight kind of tension. And nobody talks about it until someone like Armin starts getting promoted. This isn't just about one guy. It's about thousands of Filipinos in Taiwan. People building careers, sending money back home, and proving that success doesn't have to come with a different passport. And the consequence? Resentment builds. Quietly. Because for some in Taiwan, Filipino success feels like deja vu, another shadow they didn't expect and can't quite shake. Let me ask you something. Do you think countries like Taiwan are truly ready to share the stage? Or are they hoping we stay behind the curtain? Hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt underestimated and then proved everyone wrong. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever worked in Taiwan? Felt that awkward shift in energy when you started winning? Because up next, we are diving into a country dripping in luxury. But beneath the gold-plated skyscrapers, some people definitely aren't clapping for Filipino success. Stick around. You're not gonna want to miss this one. Number 4. United Arab Emirates, luxury meets unequal labor. Let's take a mental walk through Dubai. Skyscrapers kissing the clouds, Lamborghinis purring down Sheikh Zayed Road, and shopping malls the size of small cities. It looks like the future. But behind the glitz, there's a story nobody puts on a billboard. There's this guy, Joselito. He landed in the UAE in 2005. Started off washing dishes in Abu Dhabi. 16-hour shifts. 10 men to a room. The kind of grind that would break most people. But not him. He kept his head down. Saved every dirham. Ate instant noodles and sent 80% of his salary back home to feed his family in Pampanga. Fast forward 18 years. Joselito owns 2 car detailing shops. His clients? Emirati elites. His employees? Mostly Filipino. His life? Unrecognizable. But success comes with a twist. The moment Joselito stopped being a quiet worker and started becoming a visible boss, the atmosphere changed. Suddenly, his ambition wasn't charming. It was threatening. Dubai's skyline is built on foreign hands. Filipino hands. But when those hands start building businesses, brands, and legacies, that's when the power structure flinches. You see, the UAE still runs under the kafala system, a sponsorship setup where an employer basically owns your visa. It's modern-day legal bondage. If your boss wants to cut your wings, he can. Just like that. No questions asked. The International Labour Organization reports that thousands of migrant workers, especially in construction and domestic work, face unfair treatment, withheld passports, and exploitation. And you guessed it, many of them are Filipino. But here's what's happening now, and it's got some people nervous. Filipinos are rising. From call center consultants to TikTok marketers, from bakers in Al Ain to AI developers in Abu Dhabi, we are owning our lanes. We are no longer just filling jobs. We are creating them. Filipino success flips the script from servant to CEO. And that scares the system. And let me ask you, have you ever felt it? That invisible ceiling in the Gulf? That shift in tone when your success doesn't fit their comfort zone? That awkward silence when you're not supposed to win? Drop your story in the comments. We are building a space for every OFW who's ever been doubted, overlooked, or underestimated. Smash that like button if you believe every Filipino deserves respect, no matter what country they are in. And don't go anywhere, because the next country we are diving into, it's not in the Middle East, but it's got a rivalry with the Philippines so quiet, it could explode any second. Stay tuned. Your story's just getting started. Number 5. Vietnam, the race for Southeast Asia's crown. Let's talk about a silent race, no trophies, no finish line. Just 2 countries chasing the same crown, Southeast Asia's top dog. On one lane, you've got Vietnam, the factory king. On the other, the Philippines, the digital hustler. 2 nations, 1 dream. To lead the region in influence, innovation, and impact. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, aren't we all ASEAN neighbors, holding hands and sing Kumbaya? Yeah, that's cute. But in reality, it's a quiet rivalry. A spicy competition. A Southeast Asian version of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, except it's Vietnam versus the Philippines, and it's getting awkward real fast. There's this guy, Lester, 26, from Iloilo. During the pandemic, he learned coding on YouTube, freelanced on Upwork, and landed a contract building back-end systems for an Australian fintech company. And get this, he was paid 5x what a Vietnamese developer was making at a local firm in Ho Chi Minh City. Now, Lester's story? It went viral on LinkedIn. Filipinos were proud. Vietnamese professionals, some clapped, others, not so much. Because deep down, every Filipino win in global tech, in remote work, in creative storytelling, feels like a loss to someone in Vietnam trying to outpace us. See, Vietnam's been sprinting for years. They are the darling of foreign investors, the go-to country for manufacturing and electronics. They've been called the next China. Their economy grew a solid 8.02% in 2022, one of the fastest in Asia. Meanwhile, the Philippines? We are not building factories. We are building brands, content, code, and communities. We've dominated the BPO industry, with over 1.57 million Filipinos working in outsourcing. And now, we are moving into AI, animation, UX design, and fintech. The battlefield's shifting, and Vietnam knows it. Look, we are not saying Vietnam's the villain. Not at all. But when global clients start saying, we'd rather hire Filipino creatives, their English is better, their cultural fluency is smoother, their delivery is faster. That stings. And the real-world consequence? It's not just competition. It's friction. Filipino and Vietnamese freelancers are bidding for the same projects. Their tech hubs want the same funding. Their tourism boards want the same influencers. And guess who's slowly becoming the darling of the digital world? That's right, us. Now I've got a question for you. Have you ever worked with a Vietnamese client or colleague? Did you feel the tension? That underlying current of comparison? Let's open up. Drop your experience in the comments. Was it friendly? Was it cutthroat? And hey, if you're proud of how Filipino talent is rising globally, smash that like button right now. Let's flood the algorithm with Pinoy pride. But don't touch that skip button just yet. Because up next, we are heading down under to a country where Filipino success gets both celebrated and quietly resented. Australia's up next. And oh boy, it gets real. Number 6. Australia, multicultural on paper, uneasy in practice. They say Australia is the land of a fair go for all. A multicultural paradise where everyone gets an equal shot, right? But let me tell you something that doesn't make it to the tourism ads. When Filipinos start winning, the applause gets a little quieter. And sometimes, it stops altogether. Let me take you to Melbourne, where a nurse named Clarissa, 33, moved from Davao back in 2013. She started with night shifts at a public hospital, sending half her salary back home while juggling part-time studies. A decade later, Clarissa isn't just a nurse, she's the head of a department, owns a house in the suburbs, and just bought her second investment property. Now here's the twist. She thought she was living the dream. Until she overheard a colleague mutter during lunch, "It's unfair how these immigrants are buying up all the homes." Boom. Clarissa's story echoes what thousands of Filipinos experience in Australia, a smile in public, but a sigh behind closed doors. Because when Pinoys start outperforming in schools, buying homes, and climbing into leadership roles, some Aussies don't feel inspired. They feel threatened. And the numbers? They back this up. Over 408,000 Filipinos now live in Australia, making us one of the fastest-growing migrant groups. In healthcare alone, Filipinos make up 14% of all overseas-born nurses. Filipino students consistently top their classes. Filipino families have some of the highest home ownership rates among migrant communities. And while that should be celebrated, it sometimes triggers resentment, especially in a country currently battling housing shortages, wage competition, and a sharp rise in cost of living. So what happens when a Filipino family buys a home in Sydney while their Aussie neighbors still renting? Or when Filipino nurses get fast-tracked because they speak fluent English and work circles around everyone else? Yeah, that's when the tension creeps in. Let's be real, Australia is a good place. Many Filipinos find opportunity, safety, and success there. But just like anywhere else, when a minority starts moving like a majority, some people start feeling itchy. The real-world consequence? Microaggressions, biased promotions, subtle hostility masked as banter. You ever been told, "You people are so hardworking, you make the rest of us look bad"? Yeah, that one stings. Now let me ask you, have you ever worked in Australia? Felt the shift when you started to succeed a little too much? Drop your experience in the comments. Tell us how you handled it. Let's open up the floor for real talk. And if you're proud of how far Filipinos have come in Australia, smash that like button right now and let the world know we are not slowing down. Because up next, we are heading straight into a geopolitical chessboard where Filipino success doesn't just trigger insecurity, it challenges the dominance of a global superpower. Yep, China's next. Buckle up. Number 7. China, the geopolitical frenemy. Imagine being invited to a neighbor's housewarming. They bring you gifts, smile for the camera, then, the next day, they build a fence halfway through your garden. That's the energy between China and the Philippines. There's a man named Captain De Los Reyes, retired Filipino Navy officer, turned fisherman in Palawan. Every morning, he'd sail into the rich waters near Scarborough Shoal. It was a family tradition. 3 generations of fishing, feeding their barangay, living off the sea. But in 2019, everything changed. A Chinese Coast Guard ship blocked his path. Loudspeakers echoed across the water. A drone buzzed above his head. They told him, in his own waters, to turn around. And just like that, a man who once defended Philippine sovereignty was treated like an intruder in his backyard. China calls the Philippines a partner in development. They fund our bridges, railways, and hand out billions in infrastructure loans. But at the same time, they are circling our waters, reclaiming reefs, and quietly fortifying military bases in the West Philippine Sea. It's the classic bait and build strategy. One hand shakes yours, the other is drawing boundaries behind your back. Why? Because China needs the Philippines for minerals, for cheap labor, for shipping lanes, and for leverage against the West. But a strong, independent, and globally respected Philippines? That's a wild card Beijing doesn't want. A rising Philippines disrupts China's silent blueprint for regional dominance. According to the World Bank, the Philippines is on track to break into the top 20 global economies by 2040, powered by a booming digital economy, BPO strength, and a young, tech-savvy population. And that momentum? It makes the dragon nervous. Let's not sugarcoat it. China isn't just playing chess. They are building the board. They flood our markets with imports. They extend loans with strings attached. They host our OFWs while asserting dominance in our backyard. They want us close, but not too strong. Not strong enough to say no. This isn't just politics, it affects people. Like De Los Reyes, like thousands of Filipino fishermen losing access to their livelihoods, like small businesses in Manila struggling to compete with Chinese-funded conglomerates. These aren't headlines. They are real lives being shaped by quiet tension. Now let me ask you, have you ever worked with Chinese companies, clients, or lived in a city heavily influenced by China? Did you feel that subtle pressure, that unspoken hierarchy? Share your story in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if you're proud of how Filipinos are standing tall despite all odds, smash that like button right now. Because next, we are heading somewhere even closer to home, Malaysia, a country that shares our culture, our food, even our slang. But behind the smiles, something's brewing. Don't go anywhere. It's about to get real. Number 8. Malaysia, brother, or backstabber. They look like us, sound like us, even eat like us. But behind the lesson and laksa, there's a rivalry simmering just beneath the satay stick. Let me tell you about Jenny, a 31-year-old Pinoy from Zamboanga who moved to Kuala Lumpur as a skilled domestic worker. She was warm, educated, and fluent in English and Bahasa. Her Malaysian employers loved her. She wasn't just a maid, she became the unofficial manager of the entire household. The neighbors noticed. The family friends asked questions. One even joked, "You sure she's not planning to take over?" Funny? Maybe. But Jenny felt the shift. The admiration slowly morphed into suspicion. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she was doing everything right. That, my friend, is the core of the tension between the Philippines and Malaysia. Malaysia isn't just a neighbor, it's a competitor. And every Filipino win in ASEAN feels like a quiet Malaysian loss. They don't broadcast it, but it's there, in how they negotiate, how they hire, and how they compete for influence in Southeast Asia. According to the ASEAN briefing, both countries are actively targeting the same foreign investments, vying for outsourcing contracts, and even battling in the tourism sector. While Malaysia pushes Kuala Lumpur as a tech hub, the Philippines is rising fast as the BPO and digital marketing capital of Asia. We are not just exporting labor anymore, we are exporting talent. But in Malaysia, that's complicated. Their political landscape is fragile. Ethnic divisions are real. And when Pinoys come in with stronger English, better soft skills, and rising income, it shakes up the internal hierarchy. Add to that the decades-old issue over Sabah, and you've got historical tension wrapped in modern rivalry. Now don't get me wrong, many Malaysians love Filipinos. There's friendship, respect, shared culture. But once you start climbing the ladder, don't be surprised if the stays feel a little greased. Real-world impact? OFWs facing stricter permits. Filipino businesses getting red tape delays. Nurses and teachers being paid less, despite doing more. And some just flat out being overlooked, not because they are unqualified, but because they are Filipino. Let me ask you, have you ever worked in Malaysia? Felt that strange energy shift the moment you started shining too brightly? Let's talk about it in the comments. Share your story. And if you believe Filipinos have every right to thrive, wherever we are, smash that like button right now. Because up next, we are heading into holy territory where oil money meets cultural control, and Filipino success could shake the very structure of society. Saudi Arabia is on deck. And this one? It hits different. Number 9. Saudi Arabia, the kingdom and its quiet fee. Let's talk about a place where rules are strict, oil is endless, and hierarchy is everything. Saudi Arabia. A country that runs on gold and silence. And right in the middle of it, millions of Filipinos, keeping the kingdom running like a well-oiled machine. Let me take you into the life of Tess, a 41-year-old from Pangasinan. She arrived in Riyadh as a domestic helper. At first, she worked quietly, cooked, cleaned, smiled when spoken to. But Tess wasn't just there to serve. She was observing, learning Arabic, saving money, listening in on how business works. Fast forward 8 years later, Tess is no longer in someone's kitchen. She's running her own small cafe in Jeddah, hiring fellow Filipinos, delivering homemade meals to office towers, and collecting 5-star reviews on Instagram. From up to mogul. But here's the thing, not everyone's clapping. See, the Saudi system is built on a quiet, rigid structure. You follow, you don't challenge, you certainly don't outgrow. And for decades, Filipinos were expected to fit in, stay grateful, stay small. But the moment you flip the script, start launching businesses, owning 6 figures, or even questioning unfair treatment, the power balance starts to wobble. Real talk. From our stats, we've got more viewers outpacing subscribers. So if you're watching this and you're not yet part of the fam, hit that subscribe button now. Join a growing movement of thinkers, OFWs, truth seekers, and proud Filipinos around the world. Kindly join our community, and thank you. Alright, let's keep going. Let's hit you with some facts. Over 1.2 million Filipinos live and work in Saudi Arabia, making it one of the top destinations for OFWs. And while many are in domestic or labor roles, a growing number are climbing into tech, education, medical, and entrepreneurship. The game is changing, and some Saudis, they are not loving the new rules. You think the applause keeps coming when a Filipino asks for labor rights reform? Or when an OFW starts making more than his employer? Yeah, not so much. That tension, that quiet fear, comes from a place of cultural control. The kingdom thrives on predictability, but Filipinos, we are unpredictable in the best way. We learn fast, work harder, dream bigger, and suddenly, that obedient OFW becomes a property owner, a manager, a threat to the unspoken class system. And that's where it gets tricky. Real-world consequence? Filipinos facing legal red tape when they try to register a business. Workers being silenced when they speak out about abuse. Or even being deported for simply demanding what's fair. So now I'm asking you, have you ever lived in Saudi Arabia? Did you feel that shift the moment you started to grow too bold? Too loud? Too successful? Share your story in the comments. Let's talk about what it's really like to rise in a system built to keep you still. Smash that like button if you believe Filipinos deserve to rise anywhere in the world. And don't go anywhere, because next, we are heading to a tropical archipelago that looks like paradise, but behind the sunsets, jealousy runs deep. Indonesia is next, and trust me, this one hits home. Number 10. Indonesia, big brother, bigger ego. Back in 2017, there was a girl named Althea from Cebu who joined a content creator summit in Bali. She was just 22, barely had 10,000 followers on Instagram, and vlogged with her second-hand phone. The Indonesian organizers almost didn't give her a speaking slot. Too small, too Filipino. But by the end of that week, her booth had longer lines than most of the local stars. Her panel went viral on TikTok, and a year later, she was landing brand deals with sponsors from Indonesia. Fast forward to today, Althea has 2.4 million followers, her own merch line, and just launched a media startup in Manila, while some of the Indonesian influencers she shared the stage with are still trying to catch up. That right there is why things are tense. Indonesia sees itself as the big brother of Southeast Asia. The biggest population, the strongest passport, the next economic superpower. But the truth? The Philippines is making more noise. In tourism, we are dominating the vlogging scene, with Palawan, Siargao, and Cebu constantly trending globally. In the outsourcing world, the Philippines outperforms Indonesia by miles, especially in voice-based BPO, customer service, and virtual assistance. Even on TikTok, Filipinos are crushing it. Filipino creators rank higher in average engagement. We are not just dancing, we are storytelling, marketing, selling. Creatively and culturally, we are moving faster. And for Indonesia, that's not applause-worthy. It's a problem. Because when people start choosing Manila over Jakarta, Boracay over Bali, or Filipino Vas over Indonesian freelancers, that bruises a national ego that's been taught it should lead. They may not say it out loud, but the rivalry is real. The competition is quiet but intense. From foreign investments to digital media, the two countries often target the exact same markets. And when one wins, the other watches. So here's the deal, don't let the surface smiles fool you. Underneath the diplomacy and food collabs, there's heat. And as the Philippines keeps climbing, don't be surprised if Indonesia throws a few elbows along the way. Let me ask you, have you worked with Indonesian companies, influencers, or agencies? Did you feel that hidden rivalry? That subtle one-upmanship? Drop your experience in the comments. We want the raw, unfiltered truth. And hey, smash that like button if you believe Filipino creativity, hustle, and heart deserve the global spotlight. Because up next, we are flying to a tiny but rich nation where jealousy hides behind politeness, and things can get very personal. Kuwait is next, and trust me, it's laid. Number 11. Kuwait, the land of limits. Kuwait, small country, big oil, golden skyline. But behind the glitter, it's not all gold that glimmers. Let me tell you about Eli, a 38-year-old Filipino nurse from Leyte. She moved to Kuwait thinking she'd landed a dream opportunity, good pay, respectable job, a better life for her kids. And at first, it was exactly that. She worked at a private clinic, got praise from patients, and even trained some junior staff. Then something changed. Eli started being recognized, not just for her skills, but for her potential. She was offered a supervisor role. That's when whispers began. Local staff pushed back. Management hesitated. The message? You're amazing, but maybe you're getting too big. Kuwait is rich in oil, but poor in labor rights. And Filipinos, we are the invisible engine powering their homes, clinics, and offices. There are over 268,000 Filipinos in Kuwait, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. Majority are domestic workers, nurses, and service crew. Yet many still face harsh working conditions, withheld passports, and exploitative contracts under the kafala system. Now here's the twist. When a Filipino stays in their place, they are tolerated, even appreciated. But when we start succeeding, demanding higher pay, applying for promotions, or launching businesses, it threatens a system built on silence and submission. The result? Backlash. From being subtly pushed out of leadership roles, to having visa renewals mysteriously delayed, to sudden contract terminations. Let's hit pause. Quick reality check. If you're watching this and not yet part of the Insyd family, now's your moment. From our stats, more people watch than subscribe. So kindly smash that subscribe button. Join our growing community of truth seekers and proud Filipinos, and let's keep the fire burning. Alright, back to Kuwait. The unspoken truth? Filipino success in Kuwait makes some people nervous. Because the moment we are no longer just the help, we become competition. We become a disruption. But guess what? We are not slowing down. We are learning Arabic. We are running food businesses online. We are becoming indispensable. Not just for what we do, but for who we are. Let me ask you, have you worked in Kuwait? Felt that strange tension when you started rising above expectations? Drop your experience in the comments. Let's open up the real stories. And if you believe Filipinos deserve dignity and destiny, no matter the country, hit that like button now. Because next, we are flying into a glittering metropolis where success comes at a cost, and behind the skyscrapers, a political storm is always brewing. Hong Kong is up next. And oh, it gets complicated. Number 12. Hong Kong, freedom's mirage. Hong Kong, the city of neon dreams. Skyscrapers, designer bags, 5-star hotels, and the hustle of 1,000 cultures moving at lightning speed. But behind the skyline is a truth most tourists don't see. Let me tell you about Joyce, a 33-year-old Filipina who's been in Hong Kong for over a decade. She started out as a domestic helper in mid-levels, 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. But Joyce had a secret. She was a photographer, self-taught, passionate, and one Sunday, she brought her camera to Central. She took portraits, posted them online. Soon, expat families were hiring her for shoots. Local influencers asked her to collab. Within 3 years, Joyce was supplementing her income with freelance creative work. She had talent, and now she had clients. Then one of her employers found her Instagram. Why are you taking photos? That's not what we hired you for. The tone changed. The warmth disappeared. Because suddenly, Joyce wasn't just help, she was competition. You see, Hong Kong calls itself a world city. But ask a Filipina helper about dignity. Ask a rising Filipino creative about respect. You'll hear a different story of double standards, glass ceilings, and unspoken boundaries. Filipinos are the largest ethnic minority in Hong Kong, with over 201,000 domestic workers, most of them women. They cook, they clean, they raise other people's children. And many, they dream bigger. They study at night, run online side hustles, join art exhibits, even vlog. But once a Filipino starts thriving, once we demand more than a Sunday off, once we start winning awards, gaining followers, building wealth, that success isn't always welcome. Let's hit a quick pause, real quick. If you've watched this far, you're clearly with us. But from our stats, most viewers aren't subscribed yet. So please, smash that subscribe button, join our INSYD report community, and stand with every Filipino out there breaking barriers. Alright, let's close strong. In a city that preaches democracy, some doors are still locked. Even as Hong Kong boasts global diversity, its systems quietly remind you, stay in your lane. Filipinos may be loved as workers, but not always respected as equals. Joyce isn't alone. There are thousands of Joyces, gifted, driven, and quietly being told, you are too much. Let me ask you, have you ever lived or worked in Hong Kong? Felt the admiration turn awkward once you started rising? Drop your truth in the comments. Your voice matters. And if you believe Filipino excellence deserves a place on every global stage, go ahead, hit that like button. Let's flood the algorithm with real stories. Because even when the world tries to clip our wings, we fly anyway. This is more than a list. It's a revolution.